I've seen so many great writers who don't get published, but I feel like Vincent van Gogh, who lost his ear, he cut it off. He died penniless, but look at all his artwork worth
I know, right?
millions and millions of dollars. So,
Yes.
you know, would he be worthy if he didn't do his art? No, he left a legacy for humanities. And
Mm,
always remember that when you are writing, especially from a place which makes you cry or
mm.
laugh, it is a legacy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unfiltered Voices, the podcast that is all about busting the myth that self-published is second-rate. I'm Kellie Nissen. I'm an author coach and a self-published author, and I'll be talking to authors, illustrators, and other self-published industry professionals about their choices, their journeys, and everything in between. So stick around. Susanne Gervay, welcome to Unfiltered Voices. I'm so happy to have you here.
And I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you for your time. Whether she's planting mangroves in Kiribati or speaking to audiences in Istanbul or working with First Nations children in the outback, Susanne Gervais spreads hope through her writing and love of reading. You know, I'm reading your bio here and I'm getting all teary just because I know of all the stuff that you do. Um, Susanne was awarded an OAM for youth literature and social justice, a social justice literature award by the International Literacy Association. And through her stories, she shines a light on real issues for our young people. Susanne is a child of refugees, and as such, multiculturalism and diversity and giving diverse voices a voice is what drives her stories forward. And you find that deep awareness that Susanne has in all of her books. So, Susanne, welcome again. We'll dive straight in. You've got a comprehensive list of traditionally published books and a number of books that we were talking before that through the natural course of things, got to the end of their print run, which happens, and you believed in them, so you've republished them under your own banner. So books like Elephants Have Wings, Ships in the Field, Shadows of Olive Trees, The Edge of Limits. It's so great that you've got that opportunity to sort of self-publish them so that generations to come can still have access to them. And of course, all of your traditionally published books, just to name a few: Heroes of the Secret Underground, which is one of my favourites, Parrot Palace, your picture book, Gracie and Josh, which makes me cry every single time I read it, and the I Am Jack series, and of course, Guess How I Was Born, which we will talk about at length towards the end. Um, so we can all answer this question for ourselves, but I actually want to hear it from you, Susanne. Why do you write?
I really write when something impacts on me really deeply. Something like the death of my father. I never thought I could cover. And it comes into so many of my stories, like in the Jack books, the grandpa, it's my father. And so I integrate the great moments of my life. Obviously, my parents were refugees and went through the Holocaust and war. So that becomes integrated into my books. What I live, I write about.
Mm,
It's as simple as that.
yep.
And I've tried many times to be commercial. I thought, I can do this. No, I start writing with a commercial aspect, and soon enough, my great passions become written on the page against
And
my will.
that's but that's your voice, isn't it? Like, right. I remember right from the first time I met you, which was at a Squibby meeting, so the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, in Canberra. It was the very first one I attended, and you were there. And I was petrified, not of you, but just of being around, published authors and people who knew what they were doing. And right from that first moment, you said to all of us, write what's within you, write from your heart and write what matters to you. And
Yep.
you not only say that to everybody, you embody that, you live that. So when I asked you for a catchy phrase that sums up your philosophy on what you do, I read this and I'm like, okay, I have to ask about this. Writing is easy when you just jump off that cliff. Now, I don't know about anybody else here, but I'm not convinced jumping off a cliff is easy either. Although I suppose once you've done it once, you've taken the plunge, so to speak. Maybe it is. But is that how you view your writing? Is just take a deep breath and do it, or is that something deeper for you?
Well, it's both deeper, but it's also brave.
Mm.
When you jump off the cliff, you've thought about it for a long time and then you jump. But the thing is, you're jumping into a story of emotions, of reality, exposing yourself, exposing my family. So jumping off a cliff is the right term, but it's not easy to do that jump. And when you jump the first time, there's no way the second time is easier. It's
Oh, that's
just as
true.
awful. It's just we jump into honesty, to
Mhm.
integrity, and it reveals who I am, what the people around me are. And
Mm.
that takes a lot of courage.
It does. It does. And I mean, I often say to other writers and, fellow writers and my author clients, every time you put yourself out there on the page, every time you write a sentence, a paragraph, a chapter, you're putting your heart out there for
Yeah.
other people to make their own opinions and judgment about it. And when you bleed your heart onto the page, like you do and like a lot of us do, that requires a lot of bravery.
Yep. But as long as everyone knows it's not a one-off jump, it's a
Yeah.
repetitive jump, and you do have to breathe deeply, think about it, and then go for it. But it's hard.
Yeah. Oh,
Just
absolutely.
is.
And I think if we remind ourselves of that, maybe we're less likely to beat ourselves up the second time and the third time when we're staring at that blank page like I was this morning and just going, all right, all of my ideas are gone. I can't do this anymore. It's like, no, come on, Kellie, this is hard. It was hard last time. It's going to be hard this time because it's new and it's different. Um, so that whole writing process, if you could sum it up in one piece of advice to people apart from just jump off the cliff, what advice would you give to not just emerging authors but established authors as well, knowing that we're all in the same boat?
When you face the blank page or the computer screen blank, honestly, it's really great just writing what you feel. You may not use it, you probably won't, but it starts the wheels rolling,
Mm.
honestly. So things like, I'm sitting here, I can't write anything, my brain is a blockhead, and, I thought about my son, and start the writing process until you find your hook, and you will.
Mm. Yeah. And
Don't dare, don't dare let the blank page be your page.
oh, I love that. That's brilliant, Suzanne. I remember being at a conference and listening to you speak. I think it was not long after Heroes of the Secret Underground was published, and you talked about it being that book with the cross genre that you've got in there being really difficult for you to write. And I do recall you saying that you never again will write a historical time slip or words to that effect.
Yes,
Thinking
something.
about all of your books and the ones that were particularly difficult to write, which one was the most difficult book for you to write, and how did you actually push through?
Heroes of the Secret Underground was really difficult, and it took me, wait for this, 4 years to
Oh,
write it because I would stop the pain at times. When you read it, it's not painful. It's about
mm,
courage and meeting adversity and coming out as winners. But honestly, as I revealed my parents' journey, the things that they
mm,
missed, the sacrifices they had to make, it hurt. It hurt me,
mm,
and I had to stop. But really, you, when you invest yourself in a book, you do that. It's in an
mm,
investment and you wait to see the result. But I say this, when you're writing from a deep place, you never believe that it is not a worthy work. It is.
mm,
And you know what? If Heroes of the Secret Underground was not published, I would always know it honors my family, my
mhm.
parents, and the courage of youth. And the thing is, that has to be enough.
Mm, yeah, I suppose too. Like if you're writing from where you write, like a place of your personal story, your parents' story, um, issues that you have personal experience with that you're passionate about. It is going to be painful and it's going to be hard, but through that comes your commitment to actually putting that voice forward, knowing that there are other people, other readers out there that are going to look at that and go, I feel heard. I feel seen through reading your experiences. I'm not alone in that. And I think is that would be one of your drivers, wouldn't it, to keep going,
And I
pushing
feel,
through.
yeah, and look, it really is important to me that I reach readers.
Mm,
Look, publication could happen. It may not. That's a luck business.
yes.
That is just the way it is. I've seen so many great writers who don't get published, but I
Mm.
feel like Vincent van Gogh, who lost his ear, he cut it off. He died penniless, but look at all his artwork worth
I know, right?
millions and millions of dollars. So,
Yes.
you know, would he be worthy if he didn't do his art? No, he left a legacy for humanities. And
Mm,
always remember that when you are writing, especially from a place which makes you cry or
mm,
laugh, it is a legacy. You don't
yes.
know where it will end up.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That's good advice to sort of, carry with you to help you push through. So you've devoted a lot of your career, all your career, to supporting and mentoring authors through your work with the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And certainly, I think anybody else who knows you has also been a recipient in some way of your generosity, which knows no bounds, Susanne, honestly. Um, why is this your passion? Why, like an ex-teacher, we're always wanting to mentor and nurture and that sort of thing. But you do this above and beyond. What is in it for you? What do you get out of it?
Well, for me, it's not anything that I receive, but it's an opportunity to give.
Mm,
And really, I help, well, I edit a poet who's now become so famous, and I'm so thrilled. I edit weekly or fortnightly her work so
hmm
she can be the best she can be. Look, it's just something that is innate, and I
hmm
I really want, especially talented writers of any genre, I want them to have a chance of
hmm
developing their project. And honestly, I would love them to be published, but they need to go on the journey, and it's very long. And
hmm
who knows if you will get that goal at the end. But the thing is, people entering this passage of creativity, they don't look at the time. I
hmm
had someone who said she'd been working 10 years as a writer
Wow.
and had been giving help and so on, and she wanted to give up. I said, don't.
Mm.
She got a publication contract. So
Yeah.
happy. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's enough for me. It makes
hmm
me happy,
It
really.
is, it's that intrinsic joy of knowing that you're a little part of somebody else's success. But, I mean, I find that with people I work with, that their success feels like my success, as well. And it's
I
nice to
agree.
know, that you've bolstered somebody or helped somebody in a small way. And I think sometimes I get more excited with people that I've helped when they've achieved success than they are excited as well, which is
Well,
nice. But it's who we are, I think, isn't it?
I
Um,
think it is about who we are. And look, for me, it's really about my journey of settling into this country as a child and
mm,
seeing the courage of my parents who endured horrors and terrorism to always hold on to hope. And I think that gave them the strength to live their life, raise their children. And I
mm,
want to have the gift of giving hope to others. And my daughter pays me
mm.
out. She said, Mum, are you helping someone else? No, I say, lies. But I don't know. I just want
Yeah.
to. It's
I,
just who
I
I am now.
I suspect she knows it's lies as well, Suzanne. She knows you quite well. We talk about qualities that make people an author, though, regardless of how they publish their work. What qualities do you feel that people need to
Well,
be an author?
okay, to be an author, firstly, I do believe you need to read widely.
Hmm
You just do, because as you read, you don't copy what other people do, but you get the structure, you get the love of character, you get
Mm,
the overview of what it means to enter into the writing world. So, one, read widely. And the second thing is, don't look for the commercial gem.
mm,
It's a big problem. It already will be over by the time you find it.
mhm,
Really look for the idea or the passion that matters to you. Look, I say that, but really not in a corny way.
mm.
Unless you care, why does a reader care? They
Yes, yeah.
won't.
And it comes across in your words, doesn't it? Like if you're just writing something to fit a trend or to fit a popular theme or something, like you said, commercial, if you don't actually care about it, it's blatantly obvious, I think, isn't it? In in
And it
in your
becomes
words.
part of the body of publishing of nothing.
Mm.
I mean,
Yes.
sometimes you look and you say, but I could write that, or I could write that. But it's not the way of publishing. It's different. They're
Mm.
looking for the social media star, or they're looking for a young person to make a splash, or they're looking for whatever their commercial reasons are. And they
Mm.
will, challenge us and sort of direct them into success. Great. But look, it's not your way. Your way
Yes.
has to be what matters to you. And also, I'm a firm believer in research. And
Mm.
research is, again, personal and what interests you. So when I wrote Butterflies, I spent a year researching that. I went to the top specialists in Australia. I got them to explain what the whole process of burns and recovery was. I went to the firefighters, the burn camps. I spoke to siblings and people who had experienced it. I spoke and read about it until I was burnt. I
Mm.
felt
Yes.
physically burnt. I wasn't,
Yeah.
but I felt it. And then I wrote the story. The research is not to be thrown into your book because that will be a really boring book. The
Hmm.
research is to make your mind filled with that world, and then you write.
Yes, because then you can step into it, can't you? So,
Yep.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's really good advice for for all authors, but particularly, authors who are planning to self-publish. Write for you and write a book that you're passionate about and with heart, but you also want to get things correct, for want of a better word, I think. So it
Well,
is it is particularly important.
when I asked the head of the burn unit, um, I asked him to read my book. I felt very guilty because, he's saving lives and being a hero. And I
Mm.
said, my book, please. So he read it and he wrote me the most beautiful endorsement I've ever
Mm.
read. And I cried.
Mm.
And the Children's Hospital of Westmead endorsed it, and it went to hospitals around the world to travel with young
Mm.
people who are burnt and give them the courage to go on.
Yes.
I have to say that his validation was really important, and it ensured that I would not write lies. I've read a lot
Mm.
of books that I know are wrong. They're
Yes.
just wrong. And therefore, it was really important that I actually got everything right. And when he read it again, when I finished it, he told me a few areas I need to improve, and I did it. And
Mm.
I'd like to tell authors who are doing self-publishing, they really need to concentrate on nonfiction,
Mm-hmm.
because in nonfiction, they have an automatic market,
Mm-hmm.
really. As long as it's not what I call traditional nonfiction, which is a list of facts and quite boring,
Mm.
it is a creative nonfiction.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm sure that you can advise creators on that area, but there's a lot of books that do this, and it not only explores all the non-fiction aspects, it
Mm.
also gives the writer the opportunity to be in that story in whatever
Yes. I
capacity.
think that's a really good point that, that there is a growing market for that sort of thing, without having facts shoved down your throat, as well. So just on the topic of self-published or author-published authors, or authors who go down the hybrid publishing route, which is becoming increasingly common as well, and just knowing how much you advocate for all authors. When it comes to how authors are recognised in the literary world, what do you feel we could do to ensure equality across the different paths?
Well, look, increasingly the quality of, and I don't call them self-published, I call it independently published, because I don't want an automatic negative on that. I want them to say it's independently published. And it doesn't matter if it's from you or not. That's the first thing. So you put a professional approach. The second thing is, when you publish yourself, it has to look exactly the same as from a publishing house.
Yes.
Because people know. And look, I had a friend who showed me a book which was professionally published. It was gorgeous. And she then said, look, I've gone into self-publishing because I want to make the money and this and that. No one makes money, but nevertheless. And when she showed it to me, it was terrible, because she had not got excellent designers, excellent illustrators. It wasn't designed in the same capacity as her other publisher. And she asked me to comment, and I didn't tell the truth because I didn't want to hurt her. But no, if you go the independently published pathway, it has to be professional.
Oh, absolutely. 20, 30 years ago, you used to be able to pick up a book and just by looking at it, you knew if it was independently published, self-published, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
You just knew because of those quality aspects that you talk about. I think these days it is harder to just pick up a book and go, oh yeah, this hasn't been published traditionally. Mind you, there are still a lot out there that you pick them up and you're like, yeah. But for me, I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to judge the book by its cover. I'm going to read the story. If I'm interested, I'm going to read the story and make my judgment based on the quality of the story. But you're absolutely right, is that it's that first impression that, as much as we say, look at the story, read the story, judge it on the story, that first impression, when you pick up that book, that's what sells the book. That's what counts.
And really, if the book is published beautifully, I just met with an author and she showed me her 3 independently published picture books, and they were stunning. Yes. They were so beautifully illustrated, beautiful words, good editing. All that was there. And I looked at it and I thought, well, I gave her an opportunity. I was in the state library, and the state librarian, the education manager, said, I'll come over, and we had a chat. And I said, this is a new young writer. And look at her books. They're so wonderful. And she said to me, oh, we're trying to encourage new authors at our conference. Would she like to be on the panel?
Oh,
and
wow.
Of course, yes. And she is.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
The librarian, the head librarian, took her name, got the contacts, and she will be on this panel, and there will be all librarians and teacher librarians, and she's making her pathway. One of
Mm.
the things I do say to authors is that networking is really important, and confidence in
Yes.
your book, both.
Mm-hmm.
Because she
Yep.
met me, and I'm sitting there in the State Library at the Trim Cafe, I was able to put that connection together, and she'll run with it however she wants.
Yeah, but it is, I mean, you're right. And I remember that very first Squibbing meeting that I mentioned before where I met you. I remember you saying that just
Yeah.
the importance of putting yourself out there, telling people who you are, and mixing with other creatives, whether they're authors or illustrators or book
Mm.
designers or whatever. And I know for me in particular, but for a lot of us, often the reason we write is because we don't particularly care for those large social situations. But I think you need to put yourself out of your comfort zone, if you
Well,
really
you
want to.
do. For
Yeah.
example, with my recent book, Parrot Palace, which is about inclusion and different cultures and so on, I was writing it, but I really needed a illustrator who didn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful Bangladeshi Australian girl. So I arranged to meet her. She's never illustrated a book. She was
Wow.
pretty terrified of meeting me, and I'm very scary, not. But anyway, we met and we were talking, and I said to her, look, there's one thing I'm very strict about. I said, what? She said, you see me? I'm Anglo. I mean, my background's Hungarian, but I'm Anglo. I want Harry, the Indian Australian boy, to be brown. I don't want him to be light brown. I don't want to look like me. I want him to look brown. And you know
Mm.
what she did? She sighed with relief. She said,
Oh,
oh,
wow. Yeah.
how wonderful. I said, yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
because
That's,
truth is everything in what I
yeah.
write. And she got her first commissioned illustrator gigs through that.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. And this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say, your advocacy and your generosity. But it all comes from you wanting to do the right thing by
Yeah.
people. So now, the elephant in the room, or more seriously, your take on the gatekeepers. I'm speaking specifically here, and I'm making a mess of it, about Guess How I Was Born,
Mm-hmm.
and the the banning of that, which you've spoken about on LinkedIn and other platforms. Um,
Mm.
Take us through that. I mean, I have very strong opinions about the banning of books and gatekeepers and that sort of thing, but this is personal for you. So, yeah.
It was the journey of my daughter. She has kidney disease. She could not carry a child without death. And she said to me, Mum, I want to have a baby. And I said,
Mm,
I've always got your back. And she went through 8 IVFs, and they were horrible,
mm,
painful, shocking. But you know what? And your hormones go mad, whatever. At last, we went to the United States. We did it over Zoom. She went there, and it was really complicated and hard. And in the middle of it, I got a brain tumor or two. So
mm,
you can imagine it was a mess, but I was determined that I would go with her to collect Violet Rose.
mm.
And
Gorgeous.
you know what? The most joyous thing in the world was collecting this little 8 month, bit early baby, this tiny little baby. And it really has made a difference to my daughter's life. And what happened was I got home and I decided this will be a book written by Violet Rose. And it's just a party, and it's full of inclusion and diversity, and the thing that combines every family in this book is love. That's it. We love our children. And the thing is, I included, of course, adoption, stepchildren. I included 2 dads and 2 mums, and I included mixed marriages, and multiple ethnicities. And of course, the miracle of all was that there was an IVF baby, and that was Violet. And her family is her mum, her grandma, me, and Violet. And the thing at the end of the book is, put your photo here at the end, because this is the family who love you.
Yes.
And I thought, because I'm so ignorant, I thought everyone would celebrate me, because there's nothing written about IVF. I know it's unbelievable, but now I understand why it's believable, because people are ashamed that they might need IVF. Parents, they keep it secret for them because that means they're a failure. They said, oh, one baby was born normally, so, I don't want to tell the secret that this baby was born through assisted science. And I feel like saying, what? Is it a dark secret? Isn't it a celebration? Every baby is our baby. And I thought everyone would love me. Well, no. I got from 2 agencies. They said, yes, you can do school talks, but not on that book.
Wow.
Not on that book. And you know what I felt? You look at your classes, half of them are assisted fertility. May not be like my granddaughter, who had a surrogate mum because my daughter couldn't carry without dying. But most of the women who are 30 plus are getting egg retrievals. That's assisted fertility.
Yeah.
And half the class are from that. The surrogate who had our gorgeous baby, Violet Rose, said, but God made science, says she, and I am giving a gift to you. And I knew that's what she was doing. Such a beautiful, beautiful mother. And she had a husband and 3 kids. And the husband said to us, I'm happy to support my wife on this journey as long as we don't have 4. No way. And I said,
so
that's okay.
you follow through. Yeah. But I do not understand as an ex-teacher myself, and just knowing we talk to up and coming pre-service teachers about the importance of children being able to see themselves in books.
Yeah.
Yet, so you've written this book where every single child, doesn't matter how they were born or what their family background is, every single child in a class is going to be able to see themselves in your book, and you're not allowed to share it in some schools. I don't get it.
And we have in the curriculum the Families Week or Families Week.
Yes.
Well, the week doesn't include any children born of assisted science, assisted fertility. And honestly, that is one of the miracles of today. In a world that is so dark, the miracle is that we are able to have such advanced medical science that women who will never have a baby, or, we can offer opportunities so they can have family, whatever form it happens. And I just thought I'd be celebrated, but I was not. And I was pretty angry. And furthermore, even bookshops didn't want to really hold that book.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
They said, oh, we'll put it in the special section. And I just feel like saying, why? Why? All children are special, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm sitting here now and I'm thinking, like, I've got your book and I've read through it numerous times, and I'm sitting here now just going, what in there is so controversial?
Nothing.
There's nothing. This book was published by Larrikin House, wasn't it?
Yes.
This one. So I'm just, if you're having that amount of trouble with a book that was traditionally published, imagine if you had independently published, and
it would be harder. And let me say, Larrikin is an odd press. It's distributed by Simon and Schuster. It's got good background. But the publisher at Larrikin, when I said I want to do this really about IVF bubs, and he said, well, I don't care what other people think. He's a bit of a larrikin himself.
That is
and
James,
so
yes.
they went ahead with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the people said to me, oh, we don't know what IVF means. And I said, so what? If it's not relevant, then don't go into it. It's fine. But if it's relevant, it's an opportunity to say, science joined us. It's okay. Everything is okay.
And
as long as love is there.
Exactly.
Love.
And, if the child is brought into the world, however they're brought into the world, to a family who loves them.
Yes.
What else do you need? It's also not like IVF is uncommon either.
It's common.
It's so common. It's like, oh my God. Suzanne, honestly, we could go on about this for a long time. And I just want to say to anybody who's listening to this podcast or watching or whatever, I feel like we need more voices on this. Just
be brave.
Really be brave. It's important to speak out. That's why I actually started this podcast, because I was sick of independently published authors not getting a say. But this is equally as important. And I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I think the reason that we're in this situation is because people go, oh, yes, I agree with you, and that's so unfair, but they're not willing to take that next step and actually say something about it.
They're afraid.
They're scared. It's like, oh, if I come out as saying that, maybe I won't get a publishing contract because I'll be seen as a troublemaker. And my response is, oh, I don't care, whatever. But I think if you don't speak out, you lose credibility.
And I think that our voices are important. And look, I go into really hardcore issues with, with a light touch in some ways, but not. In the Edge of Limits, I got sick and tired of consent and the pathetic way we present it. Yes, they all sign and do the courses at school with no impact. And I know story has the power to engage young men and girls into the
Mm-hmm.
real journey of how we relate. You know, the way the ads look, if a boy and a girl, and I'm just saying this from experience, they're drunk
Mm-hmm.
and they need to stop when they are going further, and they stop, and the young man says to the girl, have you looked on the consent site and signed? And she says, what? So you
Mm.
talking about two drunk kids are going to detour to go and look at a consent form and so on. It's ridiculous. But
Mm.
if through story you can inculcate what the reasoning is, how you will behave, even
Mm.
when you're drunk, you won't go into to sexual activity without consent. And
Yes.
I think without books that give kids the opportunity to think about it, think about how they will behave, then nothing changes. And Australia has one of the highest domestic violence abuses cases in the world. It's
Mm.
no to that.
Yeah.
Let's get writing.
Yeah.
Give the kids the ways to think about it.
You're right. It is through story that this can happen. Like we can teach this in schools, you can shove
Mm.
it down people's throat, but story is what you remember. And
And
mm.
I had a year 10 librarian speak to me and said she did the edge of limits with her year 10 boys and 11 boys and girls. And she said, I never knew. I had been teaching them
Mm.
4 years, 5 years. I didn't know. She
Yes.
didn't realize that there's parental pressures. There's so many things happening.
Mm.
And it was one of the few books, especially for boys, that they would read it again and again and again
Yes. And that's when you
because
know
they
you've
can.
done it. And that's exactly what all of your books do, every single one of them. So just before we go, where can people find out about you, buy your books, access? I know your website has some wonderful resources on there. Where's the best place for people to connect with you and find out more about your books?
Well, they can always connect with me on my website. There's a connect link there on
Mm-hmm.
sgervay.com. But my books should be in all the bookshops, especially online.
Mm-hmm.
And with the online bookshops, where it is good is that they will find the books,
Yes. Yep.
unlike bookshops who I love. But the problem is they have a very short shelf life for
Mm-hmm.
each book, and then it
Yep.
disappears, you know?
Yeah.
And the
There's a limited
online
amount of
is,
space. So yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think online is where independently published authors should look at.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. There's a big market for that, and it's yeah. I also want to say too, on your website, I noticed when I was looking through the other day, where you've listed all your books, you also have the links to where they can be purchased as well. So that I think your website is a really good place to go.
Yes.
And plus, find out more about Susanne and
Yeah. Say
connect.
hello to me. But
Yeah.
I've got to give a little hint to your writers.
Mm,
One area, which is the doiden of writers, make heaps of sales, is romance writing.
mm,
I'm serious. There is a romance writing conference, and the mainly women are so dynamic,
mhm.
give you the good oil, and It's one of the genres that has a huge following, and somehow more than the publishers themselves.
Yes, yeah, there is. I know the Romance Writers Association of Australia is
Yeah, really
very,
good.
very active, aren't they? So yes.
And they publish a lot of books.
I had a friend who used to go and they used to run, she used to tell me the most amazing conferences where they'd all get dressed up to the nines and they had, such a lot of fun. It's just, yeah. Anyway, Susanne, thank you so much. This has been absolutely wonderful. Um, I hope everybody out there just, talks to schools about your books and particularly about Guess How I Was Born. Um, yeah, it's just, so important. Just open your eyes and think about the readers. Like we're doing this for the kids. Right. Thank you so much, Susanne.
Thank you.